tiny flame appears, not a campfire, not a candle, just the tiny flame from a lighter. For 1 second, nothing happens. Then a cigarette begins to glow. A thin trail of smoke slowly rises into the air. Right now, at this exact moment, somewhere on Earth, someone is lighting a cigarette. Maybe they're celebrating. Maybe they're stressed. Maybe they're waiting for a bus. Maybe they're telling themselves, "This is my last one." Spoiler alert, it usually isn't. Millions of people are doing the exact same thing. Right now. Not tomorrow, not tonight. Right now. And almost none of them stop to ask one very simple question. Why? Why do humans keep smoking something that everyone already knows is dangerous? Because here's the strange part. Cigarettes didn't become popular because people were stupid. They became popular because for most of history, people believed tobacco was a gift, a medicine, a miracle. Some even believed it could bring them closer to God. Hard to believe, isn't it? Today, if your doctor handed you a cigarette and said, "Smoke 2 after breakfast and call me next week," you'd probably run out of the hospital. A few hundred years ago, people would have thanked him. White background. One stickman lights a cigarette. The camera zooms out. Suddenly hundreds, then thousands. Then millions of tiny stickmen appear across the world. Each one lights a cigarette. Smoke fills the screen until it becomes a giant cloud shaped like the earth. This tiny plant has started wars, built cities, made kings incredibly rich, destroyed families, funded empires, created billion-dollar companies, and quietly, without making much noise, became one of the deadliest consumer products in human history. Every single year, millions of people die because of smoking. Yet, tomorrow morning, millions more will light another one. Why? Because this story isn't really about cigarettes. It's about people, about curiosity, about money, about science, about addiction, and about how one small green leaf managed to change the entire world. But our story doesn't begin inside a factory. It doesn't begin with a businessman. It doesn't even begin with a cigarette. It begins deep inside a jungle, thousands of years ago, where someone looked at a strange plant and made a decision that unknowingly changed human history forever. Before cigarettes, the sacred plant forget cities, forget roads, forget money, forget countries. Imagine waking up 8,000 years ago. No phone, no electricity, no supermarket, no hospital, no Google. Honestly, your biggest concern wasn't paying rent. It was surviving until dinner, without becoming someone else's dinner. Somewhere in the forests of South America, small communities lived surrounded by rivers, animals, and endless trees. They knew every fruit, every poisonous snake, every useful root. And among thousands of different plants, there was one that seemed different. It wasn't especially beautiful. It didn't produce delicious fruit. It didn't smell amazing. But when its leaves were dried and the smoke was inhaled, people felt something unusual, sometimes calm, sometimes dizzy, sometimes deeply emotional. To them, this wasn't entertainment, it was spiritual. The tribe's shaman wasn't just a healer. He was the doctor, the priest, the psychologist, the historian, and sometimes probably the guy everyone blamed when it rained too much. When important ceremonies began, the shaman would light dried tobacco leaves. Smoke slowly filled the air. Everyone became silent. The smoke rose toward the sky, and they believed their prayers were rising with it. For them, smoke wasn't just smoke. It was a message, a bridge in between people, nature, and the spirit world. Today we understand nicotine through chemistry. Back then, they understood it through stories, and stories are often much stronger than science, because stories stay alive, even when nobody knows why they started. Different tribes discovered different uses. Some believed tobacco protected hunters before a dangerous journey. Others believed it chased away evil spirits. Some mixed it with herbs, others burned it during peace ceremonies. If two tribes ended a war, they sometimes shared tobacco together. Trust, sealed with smoke. And then there were the Maya. If you visit ancient Mayan ruins today, You'll find carvings showing important people smoking large rolls of tobacco. Imagine carving yourself into stone forever. Holding a cigar, history has a strange sense of humor. To the Maya, this wasn't a bad habit. It was status, religion, power. Everything about tobacco carried meaning. Nobody grew it thinking, one day this will become a billion-dollar business. They simply believed they had found something sacred. And maybe that's the biggest irony of this entire story. One of humanity's most dangerous addictions didn't begin as greed. It began as belief. Unfortunately, belief has a habit of traveling, and soon, someone from the other side of the ocean would discover this mysterious plant. When that happened, the world would never be the same again. 1492 to 1600. The leaf that crossed an ocean. Christopher Columbus had no idea what he was about to discover. Well, technically, he wasn't even looking for America. He thought he was sailing to Asia. History can be funny like that. Sometimes you spend months looking for India and accidentally change the entire world. When Columbus and his crew landed in the Caribbean, the local indigenous people welcomed them. They offered food, water, gifts. And among those gifts, there was something strange, bundles of dried leaves. The Spanish sailors looked at them, turned them over, smelled them, and thought, well, this is disappointing. No gold, no diamonds, just leaves. Most of the crew didn't care. Some even threw the leaves away. Imagine that, throwing away something that would one day create an industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars. History has a strange sense of humor. But one sailor paid attention. His name was Rodrigo de Jerez. He watched the local people roll the leaves, light them, and slowly breathe in the smoke. Curiosity won. He tried it. He coughed, probably coughed a lot. But then he tried again and again. Before long, Rodrigo had become Europe's very first enthusiastic smoker. He sailed back to Spain feeling rather proud of his new discovery. Unfortunately, his neighbors felt something very different. One evening, Rodrigo walked through the streets of his village with smoke coming out of his mouth. People froze. Smoke coming out of a man's face? There was only one logical explanation. The devil. Word spread quickly. Some people crossed themselves. Others ran away. One woman reportedly screamed. Poor Rodrigo probably just wanted a quiet smoke after a long voyage. Instead, he became the most suspicious man in town. The Spanish authorities took the matter seriously, very seriously. Rodrigo de Jerez was arrested. Not for stealing, not for fighting, not for murder. For smoking. Think about that. The first famous smoker in European history ended up in prison simply because nobody understood what he was doing. Now here's the funny part. By the time Rodrigo was finally released, smoking had become fashionable. The same people who once thought it was the work of the devil were now doing exactly the same thing. History doesn't just repeat itself. Sometimes it laughs at us first. Tobacco spread through Spain, then Portugal, then France, then England. Almost every traveler returning from the Americas had another incredible story. This plant helps you relax. It cures headaches. It gives you energy. It helps with pain. Soon, everyone had their own miracle story. Then came one of history's greatest marketing campaigns. Without anyone realizing it, a French diplomat named Jean Nicot introduced tobacco to the French royal court. He believed it could help treat migraines. The queen tried it. She liked it. Once royalty approved, everyone wanted it. And yes, that is exactly where the word nicotine comes from. One man's surname became the name of one of the world's most addictive chemicals. Doctors joined the excitement. Some prescribed tobacco for toothaches. Others recommended it for stomach pain. A few even claimed it could protect people from the plague. Imagine walking into a hospital today with a sore throat and leaving with a prescription that says, smoke more. Ridiculous. But 500 years ago, people believed it. Not because they were foolish, because science was still young. People tested ideas through experience. Sometimes they were right. Sometimes spectacularly wrong. One physician even suggested blowing tobacco smoke into drowning victims to revive them. Yes, really, medicine has come a long way. As demand exploded, farmers realized something important. People didn't just like tobacco. People came back for more, again and again and again. That was the beginning of something nobody fully understood yet: nicotine addiction. The plant wasn't simply becoming popular, it was becoming profitable. And whenever something becomes profitable, someone always asks the same question: how can we sell even more? That question would change tobacco forever. But then everything changed. In 1880, an American inventor named James Bonsack built a machine that transformed tobacco forever. Until then, every cigarette had been rolled by hand. A skilled worker could spend an entire day making only a few hundred cigarettes. Bonsack's machine changed that overnight. It could produce thousands upon thousands of cigarettes every single day. Production exploded. Prices collapsed. And suddenly, cigarettes were no longer a luxury. They became affordable to almost everyone. But a new problem appeared. Factories could produce millions of cigarettes. But who was going to smoke them all? That single question gave birth to one of the most powerful marketing machines in history. Billboards appeared on every street. Newspapers were filled with cigarette advertisements. Hollywood stars smoked on the big screen. Athletes endorsed tobacco brands. Even doctors appeared in advertisements, claiming that certain cigarettes were healthier than others. Imagine walking into a hospital today and seeing your doctor recommend a specific brand of cigarettes. Sounds ridiculous, but back then, millions of people believed it because if a man in a white coat said it, it had to be true. Then came World War II. Cigarettes were packed alongside food rations. For many soldiers, lighting a cigarette became as routine as cleaning their rifle. The war eventually ended, but the addiction came home with them. For decades, smoking became a symbol of confidence, freedom, and adulthood, until scientists started noticing something terrifying. Lung cancer rates were rising. Heart disease was becoming more common. Hospitals were filling with lifelong smokers. At first, tobacco companies denied everything. There is no proof. It's just a coincidence. But science doesn't care about opinions. It only cares about evidence. Year after year, the evidence became impossible to ignore. Today, we know the truth. According to the World Health Organization, tobacco kills more than 8 million people every single year. That's one life, roughly every 4 seconds. Think about that. Before this video ends, several more people will have died because of smoking, and it all began with a simple green leaf growing in the forests of South America. A plant once believed to connect humans with the gods eventually became the deadliest legal consumer product in modern history. Maybe this story was never really about cigarettes. Maybe it has always been about us, our curiosity, our ambition, our greed, and our remarkable ability to keep doing something even after we know it's killing us. The next time you see someone light a cigarette, you won't just see smoke. You'll see thousands of years of history burning away, one breath at a time.